Well, Talk Is Jericho this week paid tribute to Jay Briscoe after passing away a couple weeks ago. Jericho had a bunch of different people that have been around Jay, worked with Jay on his show, to just come in and talk about their favorite memories of Jay Briscoe. A lot of these were fond memories, and they're just kind of their favorite times that they've spent with Jay Briscoe. A lot of fun stories coming out of this. One of the more common things that everybody was talking about, you had Adam Cole on, he had the Young Bucks on, he had Jay Lethal on. Lots of different people that have worked around the Briscoes that are in AEW now. And one of the most common things was that these guys were sweethearts backstage, nicest guys you'll ever meet. But people were terrified of them out in the ring, Without fail, every single person that commented on the Briscoes talked about how intimidating they were and how scary they were to face in the ring. But one of the more lighthearted stories that were told on this episode came from Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe was talking about a time where apparently it was a pretty common thing as well that was talked about by a few different people, that the Briscoes like to fight each other after they had a few beers. They go out and get a little drunk after a show, and from time to time they just start getting into fisticuffs, as brothers do. I'm an only child, so I don't know exactly, but from what I understand, brothers will fight from time to time. It's just a thing that happens, and the Briscoes were not immune to it. And a couple people had said, they'll go in and they'll just throw full-on just fists at each other. And Samoa Joe was on the episode talking about this, and he said, we used to go in and try to break it up right away, but we kind of found out real quick that if you try to break the Briscoes up right away, you're just going to get hurt in the process. You got to wait for them to get a couple fists in, let them get a little bit of it out of their system, let them get a little tired, then you can go in and separate them. And in one of these situations that happened, I believe Joe said this was overseas in England, where they got into a fight at the hotel, and this caused police to show up, like the equivalent of the British SWAT team or whatever showed up. And Joe took it upon himself to kind of be the leader of the situation. And he's like, all right, we're going to take Mark, and we're going to go over here with Mark. And he had Colt. He's like, Colt, can you please bring Jay to your hotel room for the night? Just separate him, get him out of here. And so Colt did. And apparently Jay was not done being a complete drunk that night. As the story goes, Jay might have woken up and taken a piss somewhere he wasn't supposed to. Check out this clip.
Hear the scream down the hall, son of a bitch, man! Anger, and I'm like, oh my God, it's kicking off again. So I run down the hallway, and Cabana is livid. And he should be, because at some point in the night, Jay woke up and essentially filled up his bag with urine in the closet, mistaking it for the walk into the bathroom. So he had all his merchandise in there and his gear, and it was rough. And Cabana's not a very violent person, or not, he's
they get angry.
Yeah, it takes a lot, and credit to him, but he was probably the angriest I've seen him in life. Jay, to his credit, is that night he was like apologizing. He was on his knees, go ahead and punch me, man, I don't care. I'm sorry, dude. And he genuinely felt bad. And but Cabana's pretty enraged. So we do the trial. It's hilarious and fun, and Jay gets it. He's having a good time, and we're trying to think up something that will somehow equate to what
sentence.
Yeah, which is really rough, because normally it is something like, get us all beer, we'll feel better about it. And it's like, hey man, what socks you wrestling in tonight? And Jay goes, he gives to him, and I threw him in a shower, and I said, all right, well, if anybody wants to take a leak on these, feel free. I said, Jay, man, man, you should wrestle him tonight. He was like, oh, man, come on, man. I go, listen, you don't got to do what I'm just saying, if you really want to make Cabana feel better, this is a hell of a messed up sacrifice you can make in his honor. To his credit, he slaps him on, dog.
This story made me laugh my ass off. Everything about it is great, and it can only happen in the world of professional wrestling. Everything about it, from just getting in a fight in the hotel, having the SWAT team show up, fucking separated, and then fucking pissing in somebody's gear bag all over Colt's merch and his ring gear, and just everything ruined. And Colt was ready to fight Jay Briscoe, which by all accounts would have probably been a bad idea, as everybody's fairly intimidated by Jay. But Jay was willing to let him. Jay was apologetic. Come on, man. You can punch me in the face as hard as you want. Go for it. Colt didn't, but they did do the wrestler's court, which was also interesting to me. I didn't know that this was something that was done in like a Ring of Honor, for example. I thought this was only like a WWE thing, but apparently the wrestler's court carried over to Ring of Honor, and Samoa Joe was the judge, the Undertaker of Ring of Honor, which makes complete sense. And it was his job to hand out that punishment. I just love that. And then that Jay, they almost said it as a rib, like as a Jay, like, we didn't really expect you to do it. But Jay did. He's like, all right, I'll wear them motherfuckers, and everybody pissed on his socks, and he wore them in the ring. And he's going to get a foot fungus from that for sure. That's not good for the feet. But it's just hilarious. Like, it's can only happen in wrestling, right? You're not going to hear about that on the set of a movie or at a fucking football locker room or anything like that. But in professional wrestling, especially on the indie level, this is just a classic wrestling story. And there was lots of great stories like that on this episode. Maybe not quite like that. That one particularly stood out, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. But it was good kind of going back and listening to those fun memories of Jay Briscoe. And, we're all kind of putting it behind us. We're beginning we're all kind of moving on, and everybody's trying to get past it, and these wrestlers are trying to carry on with their lives past. This was a big loss for a lot of those guys that worked with Jay, and it was good to hear everybody kind of get it out and talk about some of the lighter side of things and the funner stories of Jay Briscoe. So highly recommend you check out that full episode, but if nothing else, check out that clip, and I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next.
Oh yeah, thanks for checking out the video. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like it if you liked it. Yeah, and you can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on the channel. Oh yeah, dig it.